Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, depending on from where you are. And thank you all for joining this webinar. It's Digital Agri Hub here, who's celebrating 5 years as a knowledge and data broker for digital agriculture in low and middle income countries. And I have the pleasure of coordinating this initiatives, from curating more than 1,500 digital solutions on our dashboard, to convening partners and practitioners through e-conversations and webinars, to supporting a vibrant D4Ag electronic community with more than 2,000 members. The Hub continues, at least we hope, to strengthen a role as a trusted space for learning, exchanging, and creating ecosystem visibility. To mark this milestone with our partners, Commonwealth Secretariat, FAO, ICA, Grameen Foundation, Eastern Africa Farmers Federation, Asian Farmer Association, see the role we place on farmers organization, and D Group's Foundation. We are hosting a series of e-discussions and webinars under the theme 5 years on, 5 years ahead, the digital agriculture ecosystem for small-scale producers. Today, we will start with my colleague Giacomo and some takeaways on the just concluded e-discussion, as we call it. Giacomo, we start with you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Tommaso. So the takeaways of the first e-discussion, please, next slides. Okay, number one is a central challenge is agreeing on what digitalization for agriculture actually means and how to measure it. Without clear definitions and nationally grounded metrics, it is difficult to assess progress across low and middle income countries. Existing frameworks like the one of the Commonwealth Secretariat and GSMA indices are useful, but need to be translated into actionable indicators. Number two, there is broad agreement that digital agriculture is moving beyond isolated pilots towards more structured systems, including national approaches like NAGDI. However, this transition is uneven, with persistent divides and strong regional variation. Many initiatives still struggle to scale sustainably. Number three, the discussion highlighted two competing trajectories: hype-driven innovation versus needs-driven solutions. While the importance of farmer-centered practical solution is widely recognized, funding often continues to favor highly visibility, hype-driven approaches, limiting the scalability of solutions that truly benefit farmers. Item 4. Digital agriculture can harm small-scale producers if it is imposed top-down and driven by corporate profit motives. So solutions must be designed inclusively or not implemented at all if they risk being extractive. Item 5. Despite growth in tools and platforms, digital agriculture has yet to achieve systemic transformation. Many contributors noted that the ecosystem is expanding, but not yet fully integrated into institutions or markets. Solutions remain fragmented, insufficiently validated, or poorly integrated, meaning they provide information but do not fundamentally change agricultural systems or farmer outcomes. Now we switch to Q2. Item 1. A central challenge is agreeing on what digitalization for, A central insight is that getting farmers to try digital tools is relatively easy, but keeping them engaged is a real challenge. Sustained use depends on consistent, tangible value in farmer daily decision-making, making retention the key measure of success. Item 2. Digital solutions work best when embedded in existing agricultural ecosystems, agro-dealers, cooperatives, buyers, and financial providers. Rather than replacing this relationship, successful approaches strengthen and digitize them, often through trusted intermediaries. Item 3. Standalone digital advisory tools rarely sustain usage. Adoption and retention improve significantly when services are bundled, Example, inputs, finance, insurance, markets, creating a clear value stack that directly improves farmers' incomes and reduces cost. Item 4. Approaches relying on subsidies, fail-fast experimentation on farmers, smartphone-only design, or continuous use assumption often fail at scale. True scalability requires reliable, well-tested tools, seasonally aware design, and business models aligned with real willingness to pay. Item 5. Public sector involvement is critical for scaling digital agricultural solutions. If it provides the shared infrastructure, like farmer registries and data systems, and alignment with national program that makes this solution easier to integrate, expand, and sustain. On Q3, Item 1. Adoption depends heavily on strong digital public infrastructure, clear policies, and data governance frameworks. Without these, costs remain high and solutions struggle to scale. Item 2. Reliable connectivity, affordability, digital literacy, and user-centered design, including local language and low complexity, are essential for real-world adoption by small-scale producers. Item 3. Farmers adopt digital tools when they deliver clear economic value, especially when embedded in value chains or bundled with services like finance and market access. Item 4. The main barrier is not lack of digital solution, but the lack of integrated systems that connect infrastructure, data, markets, and finance. Sustainable adoption emerges when these elements function together. That's all for the takeaways.
Thank you very much, Giacomo. This has been a very, very precise account of a very lively discussion that we are having. We had, as you say, the D4Ag community gives the pulse. It's not a report, it's not a brief, but gives the pulse really of situation, issues with the ecosystem we are dealing with. Now we start with a panel discussion. It's rather informal. It's more like sitting together with friends around the table, having a coffee, then a formal panel. But nevertheless, let me give the floor to the first friend, say Daniele. So Daniele, let me say a few things about you, if I may. After your experience as a senior director at GSMA, you are now a leading expert in digital technology for development with Aristechia, London-based organization, tracking developments that shape digital agriculture and innovation, from where you continue to have a watchful eye on digital agriculture and the various ecosystem. So I know it's not so easy to simplify such a complex setup, but yeah, what if you had to point out the main trends you have seen in the past 5 years that have, let's say, a kind of general relevance across scales, geographies, what would you say? You need probably half an hour, but you only have 7 minutes to do so. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Tommaso. Thank you for the invitation. It's great to be here, and yeah, I'll do my best to cover the main trends in 7 minutes. Yeah, it's really important to have this dialogue. I really enjoy the exchange, and looking back at the 5 years of the Digital Agri Hub. As you say, I work with Aristechia. This is my own newsletter. I've been working in digital agriculture since 2015. Initially with GSMA, with what was initially the M-Agri mobile agriculture program, then Agri-Tech. So this has really been my perspective. With Aristechia, I started tracking developments in digital agriculture in emerging markets in 2022. And anything that is related to digital ag and smallholder farmers is of interest to me. I particularly focus on Sub-Saharan Africa, South Asia, and Southeast Asia. And for the first e-dialogue, yes, I looked at 7 trends, but I will try to summarize them in three trends. I would say one big one that I would like to highlight is that we now have. This is quite broad and general, but I think it's important to reflect on this. we now have much stronger evidence of what works and what doesn't work in digital agriculture. I think this is really important to say. This makes knowledge sharing increasingly important, right? We really need to make sure that markets and stakeholders can really build on existing lessons rather than reinventing the wheel. I think this is a big one. You know, we know better what works, what doesn't work. We need to work together. We need to reinforce knowledge sharing. And this is why the Digital Agri Hub and similar initiatives are important. I think I will go through a few key reflections with what I mean, right, by what works, what doesn't work. I would say, first of all, we know that it's challenging to go mass market with direct to consumer type of services. It doesn't mean that they never work, but we know that farmers' ability to pay and willingness to pay is challenging. Okay, so this is a fact. We know very well, Giacomo highlighted the importance of user-centric design. So solutions must be relevant, they must be highly localized. No digital agriculture solution can be the same in different markets or in different value chains. We also know that digital agriculture services must reinforce existing relationships and structures in value chains. So I've been focusing quite a bit with my work on value chain digitalizations, which is certainly a good entry point, a viable entry point for digital agriculture solution. Why? It is really about working with actors in the ecosystems, right? And making sure that digital tools address multiple pain points, not just for the farmers, but also with others that are relationship with the farmers. I think the centrality of finance, embedded finance, is absolutely critical. We know that. That's core to some of the most successful agri-tech propositions that we see globally, from Pula to Apollo Agriculture in Africa. These are some of the agri-techs that have secured significant funding. We know very well that bundling is key and central as well. Solutions need to be end-to-end. It doesn't mean that very specialized solutions don't work. They can work if they're well designed and address clear pain points. But the ones that are really scaling up in the markets are the ones that are more holistic. So this is one first key set of learnings, right? And it goes back to the general point that I was saying. These are some elements, some facts that we now know about digital agriculture after many years of digital agriculture. So we really need to make sure that these lessons are transferred and we don't reinvent the wheel, as I mentioned before. The other thing, the other second point that I have and that I wanted to highlight in terms of key lessons, it's about investment trends, right? Where the money is going. I think my statement here is that the overarching investment trends and funding environment, the funding environment, is not so positive, right? Especially in the post-COVID era, right? There are reasons, however, to be optimistic. So this is important to look at. If we look at the private sector, at startups, at mobile operators as well, but in particular the startup ecosystem, which is critical, right, to drive innovations. Agri-tech is seen as a high-risk investment. Okay, it is a CapEx business. Is not just software, it requires offline operations, right? I often say that agri-tech is as much about agriculture as it is about tech, about technology, right? Again, the solutions that are being implemented and that are more scalable require logistics, warehousing, mechanization, field of operations. We know the importance of phygital models. What we're seeing at the moment, we're seeing availability of funding in the early stages, pre-seed, a lot of donor and concessional funding, which is good to see, but what is missing is the scale-up investment. And the solutions that are attracting investments are the ones around value chain digitalization, those that are creating and strengthening value chain structures in particular, and those that are more holistic, as I mentioned before. But I want to be optimistic. As I said, I think there are good news because scale-ups do exist. I do mention Pula. In my work with Aristekia, I've been tracking investments. That's one of the things that I do with my newsletter. So Pula in Africa, they raised Series B 20 million for insurance services last year. We've seen Oko, an insurtech who's been around for some time, recently raising 13.5 million Series A investment. Sun Culture, 27.5 million. Apollo Agriculture as raised a lot of investment. Verdant in India for a specialized livestock solution, 3 million. I mean, we see many investments and many agri-techs that are now scaling up. So it can happen. It does happen when the solutions are tight and well designed and holistic. And from perspective of a geographical perspective, we are now seeing investments extending from the usual known hubs of investment in Africa is Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa, Egypt. We're also seeing new markets emerging from Ghana to Uganda to Cote d'Ivoire, Ethiopia, Bangladesh. This is also good to see. We're seeing increasing internationalization also, agri-techs expanding to new markets, regionalization in Africa is certainly something that we're seeing. Complete farmer, for example, in Ghana, moving from their home market to other markets in Africa. So this is happening. And this is also, I have to say, supported by government, right? Laying the railways of innovations with digital public infrastructure. This is becoming more and more central, and more governments are now investing in data infrastructure, digital public infrastructure to facilitate innovators, including from private sector. So I would say that my key reflection is in the current funding environment, we need stronger alignment, right? We also need more knowledge sharing and making sure that we work more closely with the investor community so that we can really stimulate agri-tech growth. This is my second key learning. I would say, Tommaso, I know time is almost up. Maybe just let me say two things about the third learning, and then I'm sure we will find maybe some time in this webinar or in the following webinar, but I cannot mention AI. I just want to say that AI is starting to impact digital agriculture, including in LMICs, right? This is happening. This is really something that we've seen, at least from 2023, when Gen AI emerged. I would say we're moving from the M-Agri, mobile agriculture era. That's when I started working in digital agriculture. We're still now in the agri-tech, digital agriculture era, but now we're really starting a new phase, which I would call AI-enabled agri-tech systems. And I would say that AI is a great driver for inclusion. There could be a tendency to say that AI is a smartphone farmer story, right? But it's not just about the tech savvy. It's not about excluding the have-nots. I think AI is a great driver for more localized, more personalized services. Think about the opportunity to offer services in local languages. I think this is really important. There is much more to say, but I just wanted to make this point.
Yeah,
it can really be a great driver for inclusion. Thank you, Tommaso.
Great, Daniele. Great. You took a few minutes, but it was more than expected, but it was really worth it, I would say. So now I'm giving the floor to Fadi. Now, Fadi Mujahid is one of the most inspiring contributors to our e-discussions. And the question is, Fadi, as you are a digital transformation expert with a lot of experience, particularly in the MENA countries, Mediterranean, Northern Africa, could you maybe help us outline things from a regional perspective now, from this bird's eye view of Daniele, to understand how these trends have developed in this specific context? And also what can or cannot be generalized. The discussion that we just concluded in particular focused heavily on scaling approaches by Daniele. There was, for instance, an onion model proposed. Others have been proposing ways to describe this enabling environment. So can you perhaps also reiterate main points of that discussion? Go ahead, please, Fadi.
Okay. Can you please present the slide? Hello, Tommaso. Hello, everyone. My name is Fadi Mujahid. I'm a digital agriculture expert. I would like to shed some light about the subject of our discussion in the MENA region. There are 3 main points I would like to talk about. The first one is the hype-driven versus needs-driven path. First of all, there are so many hype about digital agriculture, mobile apps, especially mobile apps, going around the region. But I believe I did a study, a research, desktop review also for the FAO about a year or 2 years ago. And I found about 15 apps, and none of them were active, or some of them even not complete, although there were so many hype going around them. Today, just before the meeting, I did another research, quick research with AI also, and I found almost only one extension service, digital extension service app that is almost active. It's called Morshiduka. It's targeting Saudi Arabia, but all other mobile apps are not active at all. There is, I mean, most of them have less than 1K of downloads. For a region like MENA, with so many farmers, with agriculture as the main sector of growth and economy, I mean, 1K downloads is almost nothing. So this is the first point. The second point, when we talk about MENA, of course, it has that those rich countries like the GCC countries and the LMICs countries like some Levant countries and so on. So there is this main differences between these countries in terms of adoption of technologies and adoption of digital tools. However, and this will take us to the third point, mega projects have taken all the attention for the digital agriculture, and they are the main adopters and of digital tools, especially when we are talking about precision agriculture and so on and so forth. When we go into smallholder farmers, even in very rich countries, and I have strong experience in two GCC countries, and I have examined the small farmers case in terms of digital agriculture technology and so on. It's exactly the same as the case of LMIC countries. No change. They are still using traditional ways, no adoption at all for technology. I mean, there is one country, there's a major agriculture area with thousands of smallholder farmers that none of them are using drip irrigation. All of them are still using flood irrigation, and they are not ready even culturally to move on to more technological driven solution for irrigation. So these are the three main areas, and we're hoping that with this forum, with the help of these discussions and digital agri hubs initiatives, we are hoping to improve the situation in the region. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Fadi. You've been even shorter than the time that we have allocated, and thank you for bringing in this kind of national diversity, which matters, of course, a lot. And it's a beautiful bridge to Ben. So Ben Adam is, you are probably one of the oldest, although not anagraphically, friends of the Digital Agri Hub, and now you are a senior policy advisor at the Commonwealth Secretariat, where you lead initiatives on digital agriculture and promoted the National Agricultural Data Infrastructure Framework. In the just concluded EE discussion, you insisted very much on the need for having this national perspective, and also to avoid the risk of being generic, repeating things that have already been said again and again. Can you now briefly explain the concept and the reality of the NAGD, that's the acronym for it, so far, and how it can help us be more effective in transforming digital ecosystems? Ben?
Thank you. Can you hear me, everybody? Tommaso, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
No, the concept, I don't think I can explain that concept within 5 minutes. So I would rather not attempt, So, no, I would like to just reinforce the summary presented by Giacomo, which is excellent. And I think those slides, we all need to, even though he gave details, which probably he needs to share those details with us again. I think those are the key things that we need to look at. If we are looking for the next 5 years to make a change in this domain that we've been working on. So those are the key things. What exactly is digital agriculture? And people will say, this guy is just talking about, terms and, but we need to understand what digital agriculture is. And that is something that we all need to look at and explore, because we start from digital agriculture, then we jump to digital solution. So are we referring to them as the same thing, or they are different? So if they are different, what is the relation between digital agriculture and digital solution or digital services? So those are the things and that also informs the framework summary provided by Giacomo, that we need to guide ourselves to be able to define this better. Otherwise, it's not helping the companies and it's not helping our countries. Just as Daniel talked about, some of us have been working on this for years now, and we work with a number of these startups. They will come and go. They will come and go. The examples given by Fadi, I mean, we have documented digital solutions and services over the years, and they are no more there. So it's not helping us. So we need to find a way to guide ourselves to be able to, instead of just focusing on the digital solutions, which are key, So, and that also brings the point about the enabling environment in the third question that we discussed. So, Kiringai concluded well that we listed a number of factors, but we still treat those factors as in isolation, as individuals, separately. But if we are talking of the enabling environment, they need to be connected. So the issue of investment is an enabling environment. If you don't create that business ecosystem around the digital solutions, it's not going to. Talking of data infrastructure, where the NADI comes in, is an enabling environment. It supports the technologies and the solutions. Without that, the solutions are not going to function. So we need to look at all those factors that come together to ensure the adoption and use of this digital solution. So, and then finally, position it in a country context. That's the other point that I continue to make, that we talk about it in general, but if we actually want to track, monitor, and measure, then we need to say, what is the state of digital agriculture in Ghana? I'm from Ghana. Then you can take a look at a number of digital solutions, the enabling environment in the country, the business ecosystem, the data infrastructure, the all other things that are there, the policies within that country, and see how they are supporting the solutions and services. If we are able to do that in multiple countries, then we can start, doing the assessment and the measurement. So those are the key things. And for the NAGD, is National Agricultural Data Infrastructure. And if you look at the framework that we published in 2022, the central pillar of what we frame as digital agriculture, the central pillar is data infrastructure. So NAGDI is just an expansion of that central pillar. So it's not separate, it's a supporting pillar for the AI, the mobile solutions, all those things. So AI runs on data, mobile applications run on data, business ecosystem, they all, so you need that central pillar of data infrastructure, and we also position it within a country context that, each country needs to build that national infrastructure for their data to ensure that the digital solutions benefit, to ensure stronger business models for these services. Otherwise, we will have cool technologies, but they're not going to survive. They will come and they'll be competing with the same data, they'll be duplicating and collecting the same data, and it's not going to help any one of us, not the developers, not the countries, not the smallholder farmers. All of us will continue to go in circle. I said, we see it and we will never get it. So I'll stop there and hand over back to Tommaso.
Well, Ben, you said you were not going to touch on the framework of the NAGDI. You did, in fact, in a kind of communication-oriented way. So thank you for that. So we take stock of this precious perspective and advice, and we go down one step now because we want to involve the farmers' representative. So Lani Rebagai is the Deputy Secretary of one of the largest and most significant regional alliances, Association of Small-Scale Farmers in Asia, the AFA. And Lani, can you tell us, and to the extent possible, also giving the perspective of the farmers you represent, how things have gone so far in terms of adoption and, above all, retention of digital solution in Asia? I know, again, that this, and also following Ben's advice, that it's maybe not correct to ask such generic questions. So if you can give some examples, choose one or more countries, that would be excellent. Lani, you're going to share your slides, isn't it? So the floor is yours, and let's see if it works. I cannot see them coming as yet.
Okay, first, can you see not yet? Okay, let me share again. Okay. Okay, how about this? Can you see?
Yeah, I think it's coming, Lani.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. First of all, a good day, everyone, from wherever time zone you are, and happy 5th anniversary to the DG AgriHub. And I'm happy to share this conversation with gentlemen. And I think I'm the only woman here. And it's also good that we are here because it's the International Year of Woman Farmer this year 2026. So just to follow through perhaps on the discussion, I also agree that Giacomo have really gave a very good, comprehensive messages. No, and I would just, due to the limited time, I would just like to focus on one point. No, so particularly on in the lens of a regional farmers organization in Asia. So particularly on what is one important shift that needs to be done to ensure from adoption to retention of digital solution in agriculture. And it is in this light that I would like to put emphasis on the shift from reaching farmers directly to embedding the solution in mechanism where farmer are already using. No, it's really It happens when it make use of existing infrastructure, like agriculture cooperatives, farmers association, particularly the federated networks of agriculture cooperatives and farmers association, because adoption to retention best happen, as Giacomo said, when it is built through trusted intermediaries. I would like to give you a very brief example using the case of AFA. No? So AFA is representing around, from the ground level, 13.5 million individual farmers. No? And these 13.5 million farmers are part of a local farmers organization or cooperatives. We have around 1,210 of them. And these local farmers organization are part of national farmers organization. As of now, we have 24 national farmers organization in 22 countries. No? And all of this is part of one regional network of AFA, and we are also linked to a global farmers network. So if this social infrastructure is capitalized or make use as a social infrastructure to make this scaling and retention possible, it will be less costly, and it is the natural phase out mechanism of such technology. Let me give you what are those simple tools, digital tools that we are using, which are addressing some of the barriers. No? So for example, um, only the mobile app, no, the simple mobile application, the WhatsApp, the Line, the Telegram, all these communication mobile application app for a regional network like AFA is very useful, and we are actually having less costly communication because of this. We're able to reach farmers at very very fast, no, because we have created group chats per sub-region, like we have a sub-region and even national level group chat to facilitate immediate feedback if there is like calamity, or if there's a disaster, or there is political unrest, like what happened just very recently, no, this fuel crisis, how it affects the fuel, the gasoline, and the supply of fertilizer. We want to get information so that we can provide immediate solution and feedback to policymaker. So these simple mobile app are used for communication and advocacy, and also to provide real-time solution from farmer to farmer. So we use this mobile phone for knowledge sharing group, for providing like what works in this time of El Nino in the Philippines. So other members in other countries give their example in cases of drought, extreme drought. This is what we do. So very simple way of sharing. And there are also translation app that makes it address the language barrier. Language barrier is one of the challenges, no, most important challenges in allowing faster communication and adoption of solution. If you don't understand each other, it's really difficult to make consensus either in advocacy or in making some actual field technologies more useful, no, in clarifying when it works best, what are the important elements that should be considered in adapting some of the good practices. No, so in addition, when we have this simple app, it also helps us to comply with financial reportorial requirements. For example, I think funding farmers becomes difficult because some donors say that they cannot report, and it's difficult to understand the report because it's written in local languages which donors cannot understand. But with this translation app, we are able to translate what does it mean in this receipt, what does it mean, and then we translate it, and when we compile it, we make it something that is compliant to reportorial requirements of donors. it may seem very far from on-ground digital solutions, but these are solutions which help farmers get necessary public funds by making them compliant to reportorial requirements through the use of these simple tools. And it also helped different farmers in different locations reach each other faster and clearer. So I think this is a bit different lens, no, but I would like to put this forward in the context of how simple digital solutions are facilitating this communication within the social infrastructure of Federated Farmers Organization in Asia. So just to give an example on the shift that is necessary to use this social infrastructure, these trusted intermediaries among farmers. So thank you very much.
Thank you, actually, very much, Lani, for bringing in this aspect of the human actor in the picture. And it will be for the, I think, for the next round of e-conversation and the next webinar on June the 2nd, to also, as Daniele started to mention, to introduce the AI factor there, because it's where it's going to be playing a disruptive and hopefully not a destructive say role. So this being said, I'm going to share again, if I able. Forgive me for being slow there. Again, my slides, because it's time now for Ibrahim to try to, well, kind of summarize and give also some further suggestions and hints on, in general, on the discussion that we had. Let me say a few words, Ibrahim, about you, because Ibrahim Kadar has been the director of the Technical Center for Agriculture and Rural Cooperation, the CTA, and now you're a prominent economist and independent expert, especially in the domain of digital agriculture and analytics for development. And so we ask you to help us draw some conclusions from today's panel. But also you, along with other colleagues who are here today, by the way, are a bit the bridge between the CTA, previous work in this domain, and Digital Agri. We are, in a way, the legacy of the CTA work. So if you have time and you want, maybe you can also tell us a bit how you have seen the work of the Hub so far, also connected to today's discussion. And as I said before, in a few days, we will be starting a new round of discussion, and that's about the future, what awaits us in the future. So if you like to also offer some suggestion in that direction, that would be really appreciated. I'm moving to your slide, Ibrahim, and giving you the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tommaso, and thank you, colleagues, for the presentation, very clear presentations we've had from the different speakers, and I also welcome the participants. I'm starting with this diagram, not so much to go into an analytical discussion of ecosystems or the digital agriculture ecosystem, but for two reasons. One is to make a link to the speakers, or what the speakers have told us, to place them a bit in the bigger picture. And the second reason is to say something about Digital AgriHub, as Tommaso invited me to do. So let me start with the first point. I mean, Giacomo definitely gave a brief summary, a very clear summary of what people have been saying. And I'm sure if you have time to take the list of points that he provided, you could see that each of these circles, from the service, from the users, the farmers, the services or service providers, technology, data technology, infrastructure, value chain integration, enabling environment, as Ben mentioned, support actors like the donors and so on. All were mentioned in those few days and in the very lively discussion. But if we go back to what we've heard today, Daniela spoke quite a bit about the technology aspect and the services. And I think I would portray his message as being quite positive, quite encouraging. He did mention a lot of limitations, but definitely he emphasized some developments that are very positive. Successful cases of financing, investment, mentioned a few countries. And that is good to hear because the ecosystem will develop from different spots. And it's good to recognize where maybe there is progress and change in a positive way. After that, maybe I jump to Ben, who, of course, mentioned the enabling environment, but also emphasized the need to really appreciate the vastness, the complexity of the ecosystem. And that is important because they are all interrelated layers, and something can happen in one that can affect the other one. As we heard from Lani, if you see a change maybe at the farmer level, farmers reporting electronically and digitally and more transparent, and that actually influences the donors to say, well, this is something we can invest in because it's transparent. So they are all interconnected. And sometimes you will see that a change in one or a problem in one, let's say, can be seen to be damaging for the whole system. And everyone will want to focus on that, let's say infrastructure. But the infrastructure is improved and there are no policy guidance or the value chain interactions are not rich enough, you will see that everything will still fall apart. It will not work that way. So understanding the whole system and viewing it in that context, and of course, the way you slice the system into layers depends on the need, the occasion. There's no fixed way. But basically, all these different layers are contained in an ecosystem. And I would say, just imagine if you did this for a country, as Ben was asking for, how rich that information will be to start to understand what is actually happening in the country. And in Fadi's speech, he said something which I think we may have really overlooked for some time in the discussions. What was there before the digital ecosystem started to form? And he talks about still very poor technology, farming systems that were very much backward. I mean, not backward, but not at all modern. And those, we should not expect those to be cured or improved just because of digitalization. If the system if there's need to improve certain technologies, those should be considered as maybe pre-digitalization, and they have to be not just made to look like part of the digitalization problem. So there's different layers of issues that we need to look at to really understand. And of course, it's also good to see the example. I'm going back and forth a bit because they all seem to blend well together. To see that there's a regional effort in the case that Lani presented. And these networks are really a potentially rich area to maybe invest, especially those that go as far as including farmers, extension. And so because there are so many people already working together, networked, and one of the advantages of digitalization is that people can be reached quickly, easily, in a fast way, in a very consistent, organized way. So for me, one of the messages coming out of this is that if we try to paint a picture like this, or for each country or for the different individual countries, because as the workshop is entitled is low and minimum income countries, so each country still has its own identity. And by trying to understand the ecosystem at a country level, I think that would be very educational because you have to remember that even as the technology is coming, people need to be preparing. The educational system should encourage people to invest in learning about digital or machine learning, AI, and so on. Because if that arrives too soon, you will see that there's no manpower to actually make that effective and to work properly. So that is a message I take from the very good presentations and discussions and very clearly presented views. Now, I said I put this diagram up for two reasons. The second one is to really draw attention to digital agri-hub. We've seen digital agri-hub really grow fast and become very ambitious. And this is really significant. If you just look at what digital agri-hub is maybe expected to do as a bread and what's a business, you would expect it to be sitting in the services area, linking the farmers and the data technology. But we've seen over the years that digital, through the different messages that go out, although they are doing their work in that area, they are also often organizing meetings where they talk about digitalization as a whole. And they've been preparing actually for this moment when we say they're going to jump into that new, more challenging domain, universe, if you wish, of digitalization. Now, I compare that to, I tell you a little story about CTA that some of the colleagues who worked there with me may not even know about, because I was there ahead of many people. When I joined, CTA was having an identity problem, trying to say, what is CTA? Is it a publishing organization? Is it a publisher? Is he a seminar organizer? Is he a trainer? That was the challenge that people had. There are many, since there were many agricultural scientists at the time, we decided that CTA was a catalyst. That is the best way to describe CTA, as a catalyst that made people do things faster, and basically the way a catalyst behaves. We settled for that, and then we forgot about it, and we just saw our communication. But then with the digitalization, the digital world taking over, CTA became, without really us saying it explicitly, an influencer. And the difference between catalyst and being an influencer is big, because catalyst is often a narrow space making changes. Influencing is bigger, scalable, big scale. You don't take my word for it, you can ChatGPT will tell you more between catalyst and influencer. And that's what CTA became without us really realizing it. And just the moment when we could have gone on to really make use of that strength, of course, the center was closed. And we had a few legacy products. And this is the one we're proudest of course, that we handed over to Wageningen University. And we can see that without us talking about being an influencer or whatever, the team that has been managing Digital AgriHub has carried on that ambition, like father, like son, or like mother, like daughter, whatever. But they have actually followed that trend without any, just naturally reacting because of their own individual strengths, experience, and so on. And they have really placed Digital AgriHub in a place where it could be, for me, a unique, strong, special influencer. A role that FAO cannot play, UN agencies cannot play, because they lead, they try to lead, but influencing role is really, you nudge people, but in a big scale. So for me, this is where I see the Digital AgriHub moving. It still requires resources to do that, but not as much as perhaps certain other roles, because with the digital tools that are there today, you could do so much, and with your experience, networking, collaboration, friends that you have, this is a role you can play very well. So go, you can, yes, you can. Thank you.
Ibrahim, thank you very much. for this very nice token of appreciation that we also give back to the CTA, and for your previous attempt to summarize a kind of a difficult, in a way, effort to summarize the discussion we had so far. I would say that we like the idea of becoming an influencer, but we also want to be influenced by our community very much. A very live one, so live that now I have to give Inder the difficult role to try to, in 4 minutes or so, to make an account of all the feedback that we got in the different channels. I think it's impossible to do that, Inder. So one idea, okay, you go ahead, but then I think Giacomo will try to use this information for the next e-discussion, right? And then Inder, go ahead with however you
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Tommaso. First, very briefly, I'm Inder Kumar, colleague of Tommaso, working as a digital data curator at the Hub. Very interesting conversation going in the chat, also a few questions in the Q&A. We only have 4 minutes. I would briefly summarize the topics which were discussed in the chats. Daniela started with his approach of no solution can be just copy-pasted in any geographic context without considering the modular approach. Gupta ji also shared the example of Beacon, and there were also another interesting examples about we need to make sure that farmer literacy, data sovereignty, inclusion of women and small-scale farmers is an issue. So if I may link it to Fadi's approach of a hype-driven approach or a needs-driven approach, I think that's quite a nice link. So now I would briefly like to ask all the speakers if they would like to reflect on the thematic focus which were discussed in the Q&A. I will appreciate if you could summarize your thoughts in 30 seconds, starting with Daniela, if you have any final remarks.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Inder. Tough job to summarize in 30 seconds. The conversation touched different aspects. There was an interesting question that I think maybe was unanswered, or I attempted to answer. Well, it was about the interoperability, the extent to which agri-techs collaborate, share data, right? Which I think, and maybe my answer there is that that remains relatively weak, right? Because it's due to commercial incentives, lack of common standards, and the absence of governance framework. So I would say, for me, the answer to that is that it's really good now that we are seeing more data infrastructure, right? A greater role of government. The government is supporting innovations. This is really where we can have this data railways, right? Farmer registries, crop registries, and really the private sector, agri-techs, and others can leverage these rails that are laid out by government. So the fact that this is really like moving in the right direction and we're seeing more activity in this space is a good one. It's just a reflection and a reaction, but very, very quickly to that point, because I think what we are seeing, I pointed out at a few examples of agri-techs that are scaling, and my message overall, I think, is quite positive given all the challenges that we do face in digital agriculture. However, right, we are seeing siloed solutions, right? Because so far we're not seeing that much exchange and collaborations between the innovators. But I think that the government can and is playing in different places, and I take what Ben was saying in terms of the complexities in different countries to do that. But it can and is taking a greater role in enabling these innovations.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Daniel. Moving on, if we go to Ben, may I request for your final remarks?
Oh, okay. So no, just to add to what Daniel has said, if interoperability, for me, what I always say is we don't need digital solutions to be interoperable because they are businesses. Everybody has their business. What we need to be interoperable is the foundational data infrastructure. Because they have all invested in data in the countries. So if their data systems can talk to each other, then they create opportunity to have access to better data sets to complement each other to provide better services. So the services don't need to be interoperable, but the underlying data infrastructure need to talk to each other to reduce duplication, harmonize. The same farmer profile is, registered, equally in multiple data sets. Those kind of things, that's what we need when we are talking of interoperability of systems. So yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Moving on to Lani from the perspective of a farmers organization, if you would have some final remarks here.
Yes, 2 points. Thank you for Kishan and Caroline for the comments in the chat. Yeah, 2 points. First, on using the social infrastructure that exists, which has a long history and have developed a social capital. This would balance the digital solutions, no, because the solutions, if it's not in with a strong social capital backing, it will not sustain. No? It will not sustain. But it really needs time. And when the connection has been established, it's good to utilize those established social infrastructure. You know, so yes, yes to Kisha that it took us a while, but when it was already established, then it's easier to share this information and to get information because people will not give information in this difficult time so easily. No, but if they trust the system, then the information will flow quickly. And it's not a very big data that we need. Like what is happening on the ground in terms of this crisis. So to make a clear solution, the time, no, the speed of getting the information, real on ground information, is important, no, for policymakers, for farmers organization who are responding to certain needs. So that's first. Second is indeed with Caroline, this digital for promoting the sovereignty, no, the data governance, particularly on agroecology. These are important points we need to consider. We heard some of the designing process, which is human-centered design, consulting the farmer, but after consulting, they develop the system, and then later on, the farmers are externalized. No, they are treated as customers of the apps that has been utilized with their participation. So we really need also to look into this data governance and the platform in the DG Agri. We need to really see the whole ecosystem on how to make it serve the interests of those on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Lani. You make it quite concrete that the role of digital platforms play a crucial role when it comes to the ecosystem approach. So finally, moving to Fadi, if you would like to also give your final remarks, if these were satisfactory reflections on the hype-driven and the needs-driven approach, then we can conclude, and then I will finally hand over to Tommaso for the final conclusion of the event.
Okay, thank you very much. I mean, when I try to bring small farmers to technology, I feel that I am a digital marriage counselor, where we have two sides, newly married, and one is talking about AI, blockchain, satellite imagery, while the farmer on the other side is trying to figure out how to fix his pump sensor for the irrigation. It's a very high mismatch when we go the hype driven path. It most of the time it leaves the farmer either heartbroken or broke or both. I always stand with the old school romance of needs driven tech, where both sides talk the same language. I always like to think about technology and digital agriculture like the reliable tractor, which had a huge retention and adoption history. Farmers liked this technology because it helped them, it met their needs, and that's why they adopted it, and they are always looking for more reliable tractors. So I would go with a very boring SMS service that would save the farmer's crop, rather than going to a very complicated VR headset that requires a 5G, while the farmer doesn't have even a mobile coverage in his area. Definitely, the needs-driven path should be always strengthened, while also keeping in mind to keep the donors excited and also satisfied. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Fadi. I like the way how you concluded that we need to make sure that the high tech sort of mingle in with the low tech environment to translate this hype-driven approach to a needs-driven approach. Yeah, apologies that we are running over time. Many thanks for all the colleagues to sticking until the end. I'd like to quickly pass on the floor back to Tommaso for the closing remarks, and then we will continue this discussion on further ongoing e-discussion and the concluding final webinar on June 2. Please stay tuned. The links and further information will be communicated. Thank you very much. Over to you, Tommaso.
Yeah, very, very quickly. Apart from the general perspective that we value very much, and we will, as I said, probably try to distill, report actually more than distill, the many, many insights that we got today. So just to say a word on us, on the Digital Agri Hub, I like the idea of becoming more and more an influencer, but maybe even a digital marriage counselor. That would be, I think, a very preferred role, although well embedded into the foundations of it. So either a church or a town hall, depending on what your religious and faith is. So with this, yeah, let me thank you again very much, and to be continued.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.